Cuffs are off, man. Get right. Too many left in these leagues, but I ain't gonna leave. I'ma get right. Get right. Down to the bottom and scratch it for all the.
Hey everybody, Adam Rank here.
What's up, everybody? It's Marcus Grant.
This is AJ Dillon of the Green Bay Packers.
I got to give a shout out to y'all at Get Right Fantasy.
If you are not subscribed, what are you waiting for? You want to lose your league?
Our league. Check out the Get Right Fantasy Network.
You got to get right with the Get Right Fantasy Network.
And best of luck with your podcast. Appreciate the support.
And you're tuned in to watch my boys at Get Right Fantasy Network. Get you right. Enjoy the show.
But I tune in every Friday. Strategies provided, I will lock in every way. So go and roll your sleeves up. Yeah, go roll your sleeves up. And I'm getting down cause I roll my sleeves up. And I'm getting right cause I roll my sleeves.
What up? What up? What up, world? Welcome to the Get Right Fantasy Network. It's Friday, June 14th, and you know what that means. It's Friday Night Mocks. Tonight, I have my trusty co-host with me, the one and only FF Tycoon himself. What's up, Tycoon?
Just stoked to be here for the second week in a row. I can't remember the last time I got to do back-to-back Fridays, so this is awesome. Again, back in the throes of what I was saying last week, to me, the unofficial start of the fantasy season as we get into Scott Fishbowl season. So just really excited to dig in here with a little more than a couple hours to have digested the scoring. So
yeah.
Likewise.
So what do we got going on tonight?
Well, tonight is another very special night. We have our second Scott Fishbowl mock, of course. But we also have another wonderful guest joining us. So I'm lucky enough to be drafting with her once more at SFB live here in just about a month, July 20th, over at Trophy Smack. Actually, it should be SFB Orange County, but LA sounds sexier. That's okay. She's a former host at NFL Network, hosting NFL's Total Access. She has then gone on to host two very successful shows, the first being the Fantasy Dirt on SiriusXM with Michael Fabiano. And since then, they've moved the show to the Bleav Network for the Bleav Fantasy Football Show, also with Michael Fabiano. And she is Lindsay Rhodes. Welcome, Lindsay.
Hi, guys.
Hey.
Hello. I'm excited for my Scott Fishbowl mock 1.1 this offseason. Yeah.
Well, it's only 1.2
experience it with you too.
Well, and now we get to do our second, and we get to maybe show you what it's about. No, I'm just kidding. You know more about this than I would.
I mean, this will be my first score. As you guys know, Scott Fishbowl, like the scoring is wackadoo, so everything's a little bit different, and we'll figure it out. Hi, Tresner. We'll figure it out as we go. So yeah. I'm excited to see how the chips fall here, and if I regret every move that I make by the end of the show. That's the point of the mock, right? To learn from it. Yeah.
Exactly. So just for everybody at home that's watching, this is the scoring sheet. I'm going to leave it up there for a few seconds while I bring up the board and get everybody started. Everybody is anxiously waiting to get this whole thing going. So let me just alert the crew. And we will get this thing started.
Woo-hoo, I love that sound.
Right? It's always it's one of my favorite sounds to hear on this thing. So Lindsay, you got to sit this week with Scott Fish himself to be able to go over the scoring a little bit. So after sitting with him for a little bit, what were some of your takeaways after discussing the scoring with Scott?
I mean, obviously there is the tight end premium issue that we need to keep in mind. And I think that that's maybe the most notable thing, is that the tight ends, the thing that I keep focusing on here is that how he told us that if this scoring had been in place last year, that there would have been, I am going to do it, that there would have been, we're going to check my focus ability at this point at 8:00 on a Friday night, with a wine in hand, by the way.
Hey, enjoy.
That there would have been 4 tight ends in the top 18 scorers.
Yeah.
with this, current scoring system. That's a lot considering there were only 5 quarterbacks in the top 18. Like that's bonkers. So especially in a super flex, right? Like that, my new favorite word, nerfs the scoring for them quite a bit. So I'm really curious to see, as people kind of like try to start to wrap their brain around the scoring and how it's a little bit different, even though it is super flex, how that maybe changes mock drafts, and maybe even as it changes it even more as we get closer and closer.
For sure. I mean, I was dabbling in possibly maybe doing something unheard of at the 2 spot and maybe grabbing Laporta, but I decided not to.
No. Well, the thing about the tight ends though is that so last year tight end 1 averaged 14.6 points per game, and there were three tight ends or 3 other tight ends that averaged 14 points. So the thing is, even though they score a lot, like there's a cluster of them. So I don't know that you have to go grab Sam Laporta when you can wait and get like a Trey McBride. And I think they'll roughly be in the same ballpark in terms of average scoring and maybe even total scoring. So I think my tight end strategy this year is I probably won't have a ton of Sam Laporta. I'll wait and see, let somebody else rip that Band-Aid off and then kind of watch it.
Yeah,
because it's not like recent years where it was Kelsey and everybody else.
Totally. Well, I mean, like last year at the running back position, it was CMC and everybody else. I mean, like his the number 1 running back in terms of points per game, which obviously doesn't tell the whole story because like Kamara was number 3 in points per game, not in Scott Fishbowl scoring, but just in regular. But and we all know he didn't have that great of a season, but like just in terms of average points per game, there was an almost 7-point difference.
Oh wow!
From CMC to Alvin Kamara at number 3, like that's crazy.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I'm a little. I got Christian McCaffrey last week at the 2 or that 102, and I look at all these stats, and they just right now it just favors that pass catching running back in a lot of ways, and the bell cow. So and we all know how bell cows are slowly dying, unfortunately.
What am I gonna do here?
Yeah.
Oh well, you know what? I literally wasn't even. I don't think stat. I have to retrain my brain to think
I don't
stat.
mind that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't even doing it on purpose. I wasn't doing the CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott stack on purpose. That was just the quarterback that I wanted next. And I thought I can't not take a quarterback in the first 2 rounds. Like I do need at least 1, right? Like I don't need 2, but I do need 1. And so I just realized that there's no way I'm going to be able to keep track of anybody that's coming off the board. Like I printed ADPs so that I could like nicely kind of cross them off as they come off the board. That's not going to work.
Best laid plans.
Nah.
So it's interesting about the quarterbacks too, because everybody did get 1 quarterback fairly early, but the QB2 position did really drop. I think several teams waited until 6th, 7th round to grab their second quarterback. So I'm curious to see if that holds up, because that is something they caught on to real early.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember last week I didn't get my second quarterback till probably the 6th round, and I still felt good about it. Like there were still plenty available. I love how this scoring kind of brings it down. Unfortunately, I've always been as my nickname goes with Classic, I like the consistent pocket passer, and that's not going to help me this year in this type of setting. So it makes things so much more difficult for me trying to get my brain to go think something else. But I'm loving the stack so far. Lindsay having CeeDee Lamb and Prescott. We have Tycoon going with another stack with the Lamar and Andrews. I kind of feel left out here with no stacks.
Those are 2 guys I'm not going to pass up in those spots. That's also not really about the stack, but at 4, I'm taking Lamar every time. If Andrews is still there in this scoring at 2-9,
did you guys see that? You guys see what's happening at the end?
Yeah.
Look at that.
TE for real.
That is quite a build. It's quite a build. I mean, I don't hate it. The problem, well, look, never mind. I need to reframe my brain about the scoring, right? Because that's 1 tight end, and then that's 2 of your flexes.
Yeah.
And in the scoring system, those 2 flexes are flex worthy, right? Like, because they're probably going to end up scoring more. Those specific tight ends in this format will probably end up scoring as much as the top wide receivers or more.
Oh yeah, for
I
sure.
I think it's going to be very interesting to monitor 1.1. And I know we're going back a long ways there, but CMC or Josh Allen, and I think, and I'm not a huge CMC person this year, and I hate the 1.1. I just hate that one for so many reasons. But I think if I had 1.1 in Scott Fishbowl, I think I would take CMC because of only having to start one running back. I would roll the dice on the injury stuff and just be like, I have one running back who is
Yeah.
so much better if healthy than everybody else.
Yeah, I think was it you? No, it was. I think I was listening to Jeff Mans the other day, and he was talking about Christian McCaffrey and how everyone's talking him up in general, and just talking about redraft now. But at the end of the day, this is all the same at that point. And he was basically just going on like, oh, you want this 28-year-old running back that's gone, and all he's been up here, I get it too. He's gonna regression is just part of life with these, a lot of these guys. So,
Well, I mean, there might be regression. There might. I mean, that 1.1 curse is
well,
it's been a thing, and I'm not a curse person. And thank you so much for not taking the person that I wanted. I don't even know if that's the right call there or not. But I think Kyron Williams has the chance to, and I know we all have concerns now about the Rams backfield with Corum and his injury and blah. But if he's healthy, I think he has the chance to be in that offense RB1. Like, and probably something would have to happen to CMC, but I think that's in the range of outcomes for Kyron Williams. And so I think in the third round, that's a risk I'm willing to take.
yeah.
I don't have a tight end yet. I might be screwed.
At this point, of course, the tight end run happens when I'm looking to grab him. Unfortunately, that didn't work out for me. I should have grabbed Kincaid to stack with Allen, but thought maybe he'd make it back, and I failed to do so. But that's the fun of this, is learning how to pivot and when to pivot. Don't you love it? And I was kind of hoping Ingram would fall, Tycoon, but you decided to take my my former favorite tight end of all time.
Yeah.
The thing about the multiple stockpiling one position group though that will be tricky is that the team in the 11 hole, Fun for Willis, that's awesome to get all three of those tight ends, and obviously with the number of flex spots that we have, that gives you a lot of maneuverability. You're going to play those guys all the time, but you also have to play a running back and only one, and everyone's only going to play one. So the one that you have, if it's a lot better, damn you, Mike, damn, that was what I literally am queued up, and I'm a little bit superstitious about queuing people up because I don't want it. It's like I feel like I'm showing people my work.
Well, I can't see who you're queuing up.
I know, but it feels like it.
Right? I mean, honestly, it was between Jake Ferguson and David Njoku, and for me, I picked Njoku last week, so I wanted to kind of switch it up a little bit, change my idea.
Damn it! Now I have to look at notes and stuff. Hold on, let me ignore you for 5 seconds.
No, ignore it. It's fine. Hey, and like I said, I went with Jonathan Taylor because I was trying to replace what I would have gotten with Christian McCaffrey if McCaffrey fell, and I wasn't really thinking that Kincaid would. I thought Kincaid would fall a little bit, but guess I was wrong there too. But I like what John did over here with the Purdy stack with Christian McCaffrey. That's a great one to have. There's a lot of stacking I keep seeing going on. St. Brown with Goff, which is crazy. Who else?
We're also in, big best ball season too. So if any of these folks are also best ball players, they definitely have stacking on the board.
All right, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do that.
Ooh,
we're gonna go there.
I love it.
We're gonna go there. I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't know. I'm more. I felt a little tiny bit worried about the second quarterback, and I still am not. I can't take the super flex out of my brain, and I know I should because I know I don't have to start a second quarterback. But also, what happens if Dak gets hurt?
Yeah.
I need that position, and it kind of feels like we're getting into tricky territory. Jordan Love is the guy in regular redrafts that I will be circling and just watching and waiting and trying to pounce at the right time. I think that he's a great value quarterback in this year's regular draft formats. But obviously, he went a whole round ago. So
No, I like Jordan Love too. I actually got him last week in the 111 or no 211. Sorry, 211, and I had Christian McCaffrey as my running back. Kind of the same thing sort of happened, but he ended up. It looks like Love kind of dropped a little bit in this particular mock with the with this group of guys. So, yeah. I mean, I'm liking these teams so far. I see so much stacking going on. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'm a little shocked, to be honest.
Well, it makes me feel like we're doing something wrong, that we're just like
Right?
letting these stacks fall, right?
I'm
Or
like
maybe
letting
that
it
means
happen.
that everyone in here is kind of professional, because that means they're focused on their own stacks, right? And
Maybe.
leaving so the stacks are falling to the right people. Because I also feel like in a best ball draft, that it's kind of like sitting at a poker table. If you're the person who hits on the wrong number and the whole table looks at you and they're like, you just fucked the whole thing. Like,
Yes.
why did
Yeah.
you do that? Now you got my card, and
Oh, I
so-
hate that. I honestly, it is probably one of the pet peeves I have with poker is someone getting up and leaving for at least a couple hands. You just screwed up all the cards. And then, or like someone coming in late. That I hate even more.
Well,
Then they just come in.
You would hate playing poker with me because I don't know how to play poker, so I'm just there for fun. And I know, and I will mess it up. And I kind of need someone to be like, I need someone nodding at me, like, yes, you should hit. So I'm that person. They need to have a poker for idiots table,
Okay.
right? Like a big sign that's like, serious people here. Just
Yeah.
for fun over here, right? So we can all kind of land in the same spot. And I think we would all be looking for those specific vibes too.
Oh yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah, I'd be at that table poker wise with you too. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'd have fun.
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah. See, I'd try to go to the
A lot
I'd
less
go
stress.
to yeah. I would go to the table that's really trying to win, but at the end of the day, I'm gonna go over there and know that they're gonna kill me, so it's fine. Like at that point, I know I'm losing whatever money I put down, but for me, that's fun. My
See,
wife
the only game or casino game that I would take seriously in terms of etiquette protocol, whatever, is would be craps, because because you largely win and lose as a full group, because most people bet the pass line bet on a craps table, so it's essentially you don't want to screw it up truly for everybody, including yourself. So yeah, make sure you stick with the proper vibe at the craps table.
What's the math here? Where are we? What pick number is 5.7 in the 12 team?
God.
Early 50s, what, 54, 55?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay.
5. Gotta do math.
I'm gonna mess up the whole board here.
Go ahead.
If I do what I am inclined to do.
Do what you want.
Do it.
Ooh.
Interesting.
Well, yeah, his ADP is lower, but I also feel like we're at that point with tight ends. Freiermuth came off the board.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't want Freiermuth. You know
But
what
are you
I mean?
not concerned about when he'll be able to
I'm
return?
definitely concerned about that. But at some point, especially late in the season, if I can keep myself in the playoffs and be competitive, then he'll come back, and then I'll have one of the best tight ends in the NFL. So, and he'll get that scoring up. So I'm gonna have to find a tight end that I can start as a floater.
Yeah.
But I don't have a tight end. And in this tight end premium thing, I don't want to be starting somebody in the tight end slot every week. Obviously, I'm punting that as far as a flex spot goes.
True.
But I don't want to start some Jackie.
I'm nervous with Hawkinson, and it's only because I think that he's probably not going to be back until at least Halloween, if that.
Yeah.
And that's
I have faith in my managerial skills.
Oh, there you go.
To get me there.
I like it.
I don't know, dude. I'm just trying something here.
Hey, I honestly, it's just for me, it's a lot of risk because now you got to find something to replace it for that time frame. But at least he's someone you can replace. It's much easier in my opinion.
Oh no! I literally just went to put him in my queue. See, I should learn my lesson. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm putting people I don't want in my queue. Oh, that's the strategy.
Right?
That's how I try to get
Him.
myself out of when I'm having a bad run on my little bets. When
Yes.
I'm cold, I'm just like, you know what? I think
Ooh,
Boston's
There it
gonna win,
is.
so I'm gonna pick Dallas.
there's the early pick. I
That's
like it.
Fade myself.
that's it.
What was Shahid's number for these again? It was like he's 18th
27th.
overall or 27th. That's
Yeah,
what
it was
it
in
was.
the 20s. I don't have that.
Which
in
is
front of me,
still
but stupid
bananas.
high. Stupid high.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, he's definitely going to see a lot more this year. I think. I mean, he is probably what? He's probably the second option, third option to Kamara.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the big question mark is what do return yards look like this year, right?
Well,
Like, what are
that
we
too.
actually talking about with the new rule?
Yeah.
So,
I-
That's why it's interesting to have it this year because you really don't
yeah.
know. That's really it's such an X factor because you can't really plan for it.
I think they were talking about it today, and I didn't get to see it or I didn't hear it from John, but I remember hearing or no something in my head saw Marvin Mims as being like a really big like option this year because he's so heavily involved in the return game and is slowly right.
I do. I love him. I feel like he's one of those guys though that you're like, and this was me all year last year. I stashed him on my bench, and thank you very much for taking him. I was trying not to think about the player that I wanted. No, shoot! I thought it was me. I thought it was one more. I thought it was one earlier. As soon as I said that, I sent it into the universe. Damn. Oh, now I'm screwed. Okay.
That's so funny.
Like, you
Guys.
can't make that kind of stuff up.
No, you can't.
Oh, I didn't want that to
Well,
happen. That's
if
who I
you're still
wanted. I
thinking
don't.
receiver, you got some sweet options here. There's a nice little stack available for you, in fact.
Yeah.
You're right. Thank you. That's a good call. Except, I don't know what that's going to look like
Double
in
stack.
Chicago. Any of those three could be the one. Any of those three could be the three.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, but Keenan is getting older, and he's more of a possession guy. I mean, and that's
But
no.
before he got
nobody
hurt
loves
last year,
Keenan.
damn it, that was my other guy. And I was wondering if that was a reach. This is good. I'm just going to talk myself
See?
down.
Right?
Take
I mean,
a swig and
part
remind
of-
myself this is why we do mock drafts.
So part of his PPR dominance, right, it was his number of receptions.
Mhm.
That's definitely going to go down playing with this group in Chicago. I think. I mean, he's not automatically top dog and clear in a way like he has been in Los Angeles and San Diego.
But
Rome,
but he's
some
also,
rookies come in and make that huge.
But Keenan is also a guy who is such a professional receiver,
He is.
He
right?
is.
Like, you want
He's
him
a
to be in a
technician.
certain place, and especially now that he's doing a little bit more of the intermediate stuff, and he's not as much like a go
The deep
long type
route.
guy. Like he's
Yep.
lost a little bit of a step. Kind of feel like with Caleb as a rookie, that's a nice little. I mean, I don't want to use the word security blanket, but like if you're like, I don't know what I'm reading here, and if there's any of that for Caleb at the beginning, then
Well, yeah,
Keenan's
he'll
going
be
to
the
be a
safety
pretty
valve
nice little
receiver
outlet.
for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, no doubt.
Mhm. And he's going to be in the right spot, and he's going to catch it.
Oh yeah, and I mean they're going to probably move him more to the slot anyway, and have Romeo and DJ Moore being on the outside a little bit.
Damn it. Okay, you guys, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
You're good.
I just put Mixon in my queue again. I was like, it's not a real thing. I'm not touching anyone. I'm not even looking at anyone I actually want for the rest of the whole entire thing.
It's
I
kind of funny.
apologize.
No, you're good. I've been doing this for the last 3 years on this show, and I do every Friday night. We do mocks every Friday night, and I can't tell you, I have never in my life set my queue. Ever. I never set my
I've
queue.
added a couple of people once in a while. I don't really use the queue either.
I
frankly.
very rarely use my queue.
Well,
Ever.
in this particular one, because the names that are there,
Understood.
like in terms of, I need something visual
Yeah.
to just kind of go along and be like, okay, somewhere in this range is the
Yeah.
person that I want. And usually the rankings are roughly the same tiers as
Oh, yeah.
my brain has them tiered in. And then I can just go get the one in that tier that I want until we get to like later rounds. And you're like, this is my favorite. I'm going to go grab him. Shoot, I'm on the clock. I got to stop talking.
No, you're okay.
Hold, please.
Yeah, this is definitely the tricky part of the draft. I have no idea what I'm going to do here
No.
in 2 picks. Not
Yeah,
a
I
single
have
clue.
I have a couple of
No.
options that I'm floating around, and I know one's gonna last me. The other one I don't know about. So okay, so Rasta goes. Alan has the phone book savvy
Yeah,
route running. Yeah,
he does. He does.
he does.
And that's still where he'll make his bones with Chicago for sure. But I think Moore is still going to be the bigger
Ooh.
play receiver in general, which I think
I
will
like
lead to
that
more
pick.
fantasy
I like
points,
that. I like that scary Terry pick.
as Tresner says.
Yay.
All right. No, come on, Johnny.
Oh.
Johnny, you dirty asshole. Oh,
That is quite a visual statement.
That
Yeah, I
was
know, right?
in a very poor sequence of words. That is not the way.
I'm sorry, we are not Fabs. We do curse.
Well, I mean, I don't know how frequently you guys listen to us, but
I do.
too.
I listened
Fabs
to that
is like,
episode.
yeah, and I'm breaking Fabs. I'm breaking him in. He said he accidentally cursed on someone else's podcast recently, and I was like,
It's
I am a
just
Keenan fan. I'll show.
oh, come on. Oh, there you go. At least you stuck with your convictions. I like it.
well, I'm like sweating, and this is
Oh yeah.
how am I gonna get these off?
Well, you guys are out in Cali where
Yeah,
it's
no.
nice and warm.
It was
I'm out
too
in
warm.
I am
like
all
light, I don't know, man.
I'm all the way
Hi.
out
And
in Long Island.
Keep
I'm
sound
not-
purity. I can't really have fans on
Yeah,
blowing
me
into the
neither.
microphone, windows open, things like that. So it gets a little stuffy sometimes during showtime.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely hear that.
Even the
Unfortunately,
AC is kind of loud, so I don't like running that.
yeah. Oh no, I have to run that. Otherwise, I might die back here. I need my green screen up. I need everything. Oh man, who am I gonna? Oh no, I don't want to do it. I'm gonna do it.
Sorry.
No, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
No.
So excited for another year
What are
of
you-
live drafting for Scott Fish, Lindsay?
Yeah, it's so much fun. I love doing it. I love seeing the group of people. It's a great group of people.
It's
And
Wendy. What's up, Wendy? How you doing?
Wendy. See, I don't even have the StreamYard. I want to be able to see all this stuff, but like I also need my board in front of me. I'm like, this is fun and all, but we're drafting and I have to kick their ass. So we're gonna have to be, just kidding.
Don't
Hi,
you
Wendy.
worry now. I
Wendy
always
is the best. Okay.
Oh, I love Wendy. I've only gotten to meeting her recently, and can't wait to meet her at the expo. That I'm excited about.
Okay. Christian Kirk was one that I very much liked. I wouldn't touch Dave. I just said David.
Derek
I wouldn't touch Derek Carr.
Well, didn't you used to work with David Carr?
I did.
Exactly.
did.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's
I
amazing.
love Derek. Oh, I love David Carr.
He's a very
His brother, not
he's
so
a
much.
really good dude. No, his brother's great. It's
No,
just
his
in
brother's
fantasy, right? Like we think of
Right,
people in fantasy prisms, and he's not that quarterback. So
He's not.
I don't need him except for depth.
I will never forget when David Carr was a backup for the Giants, and it was I like him. I liked him when he first came out, and when he was the first quarterback for the Texans. I always had a
Poor
little,
guy. He got killed.
I know. I had this. I don't know, this weird admiration for that team because I loved David Carr. I loved Owen Daniels, Andre Johnson. When they were all together, it was just such a cool team. But
Yeah.
How
about that O-line? Let's rattle through some
yeah,
of these
yeah.
things. I'm just kidding.
Well, now.
That poor
Make
guy
sure you
had
sign up.
rookie
go ahead.
records for sacks.
Yeah, it was 65 in a year or something like that.
Yeah,
It's probably broken now by Daniel Jones.
I mean, he is, and I say this all the time. People, I'm sure, get super sick of me saying it, but I really, really, really believe that environment sort of dictates a lot of players' success or not, like how we think of them long term. I think there's a ton of quarterbacks that are kind of in the same bucket, and if they go to a good situation, then we think of them fondly, and if they go to a bad situation, then they kind of flame out. But they weren't really any worse than this guy. You know what I mean? So I think David is a guy who just got a raw deal in the beginning, and then it's hard to work your way back in. I feel that same way about Sam Darnold, and I know people are sick of me beating that horse, but
No, hey, I get it. I mean, he had a rough time going to the Jets. Jets had a crap old line and didn't have anything around him. I mean, believe me.
Carolina.
Oh, Carolina wasn't any better. I mean,
He had a handful of superstar games in Carolina, though.
Yeah, but he had didn't he have more there too? He had a decent receiver.
Yeah, but he had like, did he ever really have good coaching? Did he have a good offensive line? Like he had,
Wasn't McAdoo there at the time of that? So yeah, I don't think he had good coaching anyway. I hate Ben McAdoo.
Yeah, well, there's a handful of coaches that are not my favorite. Not personally.
No, all good.
But just literally like where you're like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Why are we still doing this thing? Whatever that thing is.
I had him for too many years in New York, and the whole Eli thing just made me hate him more. So I when they put in Geno, I couldn't. Nope. That will always sit with me for the rest of my life. And I went to Eli's last game too, and that was probably one of my favorite games that I've ever been to.
Deontay, I like that pick there.
I love Deontay.
Like that pick there.
Yeah,
he is the one rare guy in Carolina that I like a lot.
Yeah, I mean, think of like the targets that he's likely to get. There's nobody else there.
Yeah,
I mean, there's Thielen, but okay, what am I going to do here, you guys? What I want to do here is I want to take Rashee Rice.
Yeah,
but I feel
then
a little
you're
bit
gonna have to.
Exactly, but then I feel scared because I did that with Hawkinson.
Yeah,
I'm going to do it anyway. There's always wide receivers I can.
There you go. I don't know. Okay, so I'll talk about Rice for like 2 seconds. Okay. How long do you think he's going to be out for? Roughly.
I don't know.
Just
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that that's not the answer, and I should be like, yeah, it's this long. I have long ago, I gave up trying to predict what the NFL was going to do when it came to punishments.
Fair
because
point.
there were, when the Tyreek Hill thing happened with his son, and there was a tape of it, and him talking to the son's mother, and it was not a good look for the NFL. It was not a good look for Tyreek Hill, and I was adamant. Like in the newsroom, I remember having conversations. I was like, "There's no chance he's playing. There's no chance, none." And then it was like, "Oh, he's playing. No, he's playing. It's fine." So, I don't do suspension projections anymore because they always come in under.
Okay.
Always. Whatever I think it is likely to be, it's not that. Okay. So, unless there was a tape of Rashee Rice, you know what I mean? Like,
well, there was kind of. You saw what happened, and that was about it. And we can't even tell if that maybe might be the tape. But yeah, I mean,
and he had the club charges dropped against him.
Yeah, that was
anyway since then. So, like, I don't think it's going to be particularly long myself. I can't guess an exact number of games, but I don't think it's going to be an extended absence.
I mean, want to get the conspiracy theorists going? Don't give him one, and then be like, with all the, well, it's the Chiefs, and they want the Chiefs to be strong, and they want Patrick Mahomes. They want Patrick Mahomes to have his, best weapons, so he looks good, and Taylor has something to cheer for.
Yeah, that's a good thought. I like that. That's a, I think it's going to be. I mean, I think last time I listened to Drew Davenport, he said something around the lines of anywhere between 4 to 8 is his best guess. And he's like you. He has no flipping idea what's going to happen. So he's basically going to go, I'm going to go right in between it at 6. But if I even have him for 6 games of this, is it worth it? I think so. Because you get him near the second half and you can use him for a run.
I mean, you have to work the wire and make the right moves and make sure that the people on your bench are people that you can actually play.
Yeah, for sure.
This is so fascinating to me because I kind of feel like who I want. I don't want to reach for people, but I'm not really used to the ADPs for this yet. And I don't, Yeah, I don't know. So who I'm going to take here, I feel a little bit, I probably shouldn't feel like I need a running back. Oh, look, I'm going to do it. Forget it. I'm going
Okay.
to take Mostert.
Yeah,
You know
I was in
what?
the same boat. I felt like I kind of needed to, even though I probably really didn't need to.
I know, right? Like, do you have one, you're going to play one. Like, are you ever going to
Yeah.
play two running backs? I mean, we'll get a
That it
feel for
being
what
an
the scoring
almost
looks
all
like.
flex roster, it plays mind games a little bit.
Yeah.
See, and I like this pick because like I said, I listen to you guys often, and you and Fabs were talking about Mostert a couple weeks ago about him being such a value and why no one's picking him up. They're all going for A-Chain, and I'm sitting here like, why?
Yeah. Well, that said, and I'm the person that's like, I'm driving that bus. I'm like, we're just throwing Mostert away. The ADP is too different, and it's like we're overlooking him because he's old and we're done. That said, literally tonight I was looking at where the drops were in terms of positional scoring last year, and Mostert had 2 times as many attempts as Achan and only 200 more yards.
Oh,
Like, he had 1,000 yards, Achan had 800, and he had literally half the attempts. Like, it's crazy how good
yeah.
Achan was, right? And so I could see the argument that you're like, if Achan's healthy and he's on the field and it's year 2 and they start with him more as a focus here, and they also backed him up in the draft potentially, so they could maybe roll the dice with his talent and not have to feel like, well, we got to keep him healthy. You could make an argument that it makes sense to be like, just Achan all the way. And then when he gets hurt, bring in the rook, you know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we'll be able to see. I mean, this offense or this team as a whole has been interesting to watch. If you got a chance to watch them in Hard Knocks, they were quite entertaining overall. Mostert, I got to like Mostert a lot in that particular show, to be honest. Just a genuine guy that really hard worker,
Great
even
dude.
though what?
He's a great dude.
Oh, yeah.
Mostert. He's awesome.
And honestly, he had like 2 years of kind of no tread on the tire where he didn't have to use it. So now he's gotten the opportunity to, and he's in a really good fast-paced offense that works for him. I'm a little worried about the line, but I think he can do okay overall. Tyron Armstead's got to stay healthy. That's a big deal in a lot of ways. He's a big part of that line. And Connor Williams has to stay healthy too. Well, no. Connor, I think, left. I have to double check that. But I remember one of them. I know one part of the line left. But that offense is going to be interesting. I don't know a lot about Jalen Wright, the running back, the rookie running back that came in. So I'm not 100% on, how he'll impact things. But
I mean, almost all the running backs that were taken this year are like, I don't think you have to be that worried about them out of the gate because it wasn't like the first round running back. That's not what this class was. So you have to keep that in mind, that the talent's not so much that we're looking at Jonathan Brooks where we're looking at him only because he goes to a team that has crappy running backs. And so you're like, the opportunity is there. I mean, if they drafted him, they probably are going to give him an opportunity. Can you not beat out Chuba Hubbard? We might have a problem, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't see Jonathan Brooks starting until maybe end of September, maybe beginning of October. I mean, if I remember correctly, he went down in November. So we'll see how that works out and how he comes back. But Chuba did okay at the end of the year. Otten.
Coach Bruce. I was just looking at him because I think I need another tight end. I mean, this is the story of the thing. Don't look at anyone until you're on the clock, Lindsay. I just looked at him, but I wasn't even going to take him here because I thought that I was probably too much of a reach.
Yeah.
And so obviously it turns out it wasn't. I mean, the tight end position has thinned.
Oh yeah. I like a couple of guys in this particular spot too that are coming
left.
up. Yeah. I have a few that are actually ones in the top 6 or so left. So
let me go to all. Yeah, I don't know who that is. It's probably on your ADP list because again, I'm looking
Oh
at
no, it's
sleeper
not.
list that.
I'm using the sleeper list. I don't go by anything crazy.
Oh, all right. I'm just gonna get a wide receiver here,
There you
and I'll
go.
figure that out next.
So
That's a
I
good
have
pick for like Brian Robinson there.
I
A
got
lot.
Phil wanted to ask you a question, and we were
Okay.
just talking about Jalen Wright, and he goes, "What's your feeling about Jalen Wright in best ball? The dynasty community is on him, but in this format, how do you see him?"
In best ball. I mean, if you can get him in a, I don't know what his ADP is off the top of my head in best ball. I'm assuming it's pretty late. Relatively. I think that any running back that gets on the field for Miami is going to put up massive numbers. So in best ball,
Yes.
I think I like him. I actually think I like him a lot, at ADP.
Okay.
Because you figure it's going to be an all or nothing type situation for him.
Yeah.
Right. Because the offense is so freaking good at getting players in space and creating space and putting them in motion and taking advantage of their speed. He's a speed guy. And so the question for me is where he is on the depth chart and does he see the field at all? But if he does see the field because someone is hurt in a best ball format where you're getting him late, where you don't need him to necessarily be your every week starter and he's not going to carry you, he could give you a massive spike number. Like, look at the numbers that the running backs put up.
Oh,
my
And to
sure.
that point, even if he's third on the depth chart, two guys in front of him historically
Yep.
don't have a great track record when it comes to injury. Mostert's been able to stay mostly healthy the last couple of years, but throughout most of his career, not really the case. So
Yeah.
it makes you think the opportunity will present itself at some point.
Yeah, I think so. I like him. That's a good question.
That one I was hoping to
Stall.
wait for, but
Stall
I'm
for
glad. Oh, we will.
Is it Chiggy? Who do you like? I don't
I don't
understand.
No, I'll tell you
Is
who
it
it is.
Sinnott?
I'll wait. I'll tell you who it is.
Is it
One of my
likely?
favorite guys.
It's
No.
Mike Gesicki.
No. Well, maybe actually I like him a lot, but
See?
it ain't
Not
Gesicki. No, you know how much I
Oh,
like
crap, I'm
Gesicki. No, he
Is
knows
it
how much I like.
Jonu?
No, not
No.
Jonu. Not a big fan of Jonu.
Yeah.
Wait, did the guy I was thinking?
You guys, I still can't do it. I just can't. It's too much of a reach. I'm gonna have to figure that out later. Can't do it.
I have two other thoughts. I don't want to blow your cover though, Mike, but I do have.
Oh, no, go ahead. I don't care. He's not coming back to me and I'm not picking him up.
Guys. Shit, I
Well,
don't
if
know.
it's somebody who might not make it back to you, then
No.
whatever.
He's
No,
not
it's not
making it.
Gesicki. I'm thinking either Bellinger or Everett is who
Okay.
I'm looking at.
I
I
feel like
Lockett.
I feel like my wide receiver, I have like a really good fantasy team from 2018. You know what I mean? Like
No, I
D-Hop
get
and
it.
Lockett and
Scary Terry coming out rookie year. Yeah.
oh, how about the kicker? How about the kicker?
So,
I
yeah,
can't
remember,
I keep forgetting about that element.
for sleeper, we only you had the designated kicker.
Mhm.
For MFL, they do have flex spots for kickers, so you can put 6 kickers in if you really want to. But at this, you can only have 1, so you really only want to have 2 or 1-ish, for a backup. I like Aubrey a lot. He's probably my favorite, person. Kicks indoors for at least his home games. Unfortunately, he plays a lot on the, the other games are going to be a little bit more spread out, but I want guys that are in that dome all the time, every day. I like Cameron Dicker a lot for that particular offense. Now that what's his face is gone, no more going for it on 4th down anymore. Hopefully, no, it is not Tucker Kraft. It is not
Conklin?
Tucker Kraft. It is Conklin.
It is Conklin.
I really, really like Tyler Conklin in this particular formatting. If you look at him, if you look at his stats from last year for 3rd down, he was actually 16th on 3rd down with 24 receptions. And that was only behind guys, Jalen Moreland, Chris Olave, Evan Ingram, Sam Laporta, Allen Nuke. I mean, there's so many guys that are there that he could fit right into that for this type of format, and I'm happy with it. Hey, He's a low round sleeper guy that no one's going to care about.
Totally. And whatever we saw last year is kind of out the window. Like as
Yeah.
long as Aaron stays healthy, which
Right.
I'm not 100% convinced. Like I have not wrapped my brain around the
Oh my
Jets
God,
being
right.
fully different. Like I'm not there yet. I'm not one of the people that's like Garrett Wilson first round because Aaron's back. Like I can't do it yet because 12 points last year,
Yeah.
and he's incredible. So, like, if Aaron's not out there, then am I getting 12 points out of him again? My first round pick? No, thank you. Can't do it.
No, I get it. I drafted Garrett Wilson in a few dynasty startups this year, hoping and praying that something might happen this year, more than 4 plays, and hope that whole thing works out in one way or another. Who's even the Jets' backup guy now? Now that I'm thinking about it, did they draft anybody? No, yeah, didn't they draft somebody?
Is it tight end?
No. At quarterback, who's their backup
I don't
quarterback
know who the
now?
backup is in New York, actually.
Hold, please.
Oh, it
I
is
will keep
Tyrod.
recording.
It's Tyrod Taylor. That's who it is.
All right.
Well, that's
Okay.
actually.
I don't
I
hate
like
I
that.
mean,
No, I like that a lot.
it doesn't excite me, but
No.
and also you figure as for the 5 games that Mike Williams is healthy, he will be splitting some targets.
Yeah. And Lazard's there too. Jordan Travis. That's who I was thinking about.
Lazard,
Thank you.
everybody keeps doing that. I think Josh Palmer, that's a very smart pick there.
Should
The
I
pick right
do-
after mine. Thanks a lot for rubbing that in my face, John Maine. I think Josh Palmer actually is a smart pick because, what do we think is going to happen there? And somebody's got to catch the ball. That receiver room is crap.
I was going to ask you.
I know we all think they're not going to throw the ball as much, but I don't like it.
Who's one guy? Well, if you're picking between Josh Palmer and Quentin Johnston,
No,
Okay.
easy.
The answer is no. Got
Josh
it.
Palmer. Easy. I am not picking Quentin Johnston. Yeah, it actually
Lad McConkey.
that might be it. Let me
Okay.
look at it might be that, to be honest with you. It might be
Okay.
Lad. That might be the guy that I am most interested in that room because Josh Palmer is probably he's a guy who is sneaky, could pick up a bunch of fantasy points. But
I agree.
I don't think he's not somebody that can't be supplanted, right? Like he's Josh Palmer. He's the 3 in the NFL. So the only reason we're talking about him as a 1 is because there's nobody else there to take the targets. So those targets feel wide open. And I think Lad McConkey is a consistent guy. So I think
Yes.
that could work out. And oh my God, they're probably going to bring his ADP down again. I mean, not his ADP, his ADOT.
More than
whatever.
likely.
I don't know. Actually, maybe they won't,
Hmm.
right? Because it'll all be so close to the line of scrimmage. Maybe they need when he throws him to stretch the defense out, because they're going to run so much, just to keep the defense honest. I hate even the fact that we're talking about playing with Justin Palmer Justin Herbert as a pawn for anything else.
Oh yeah.
Right.
It's gross. He's so good.
He's one of the. I like him a lot. And everyone keeps going, oh, they're going to run the ball. They're going to run the ball. They're going to run the ball. Okay, yeah, they're going to run the ball to give Justin a little bit of time to throw it. They're going to want to open everything up and make it so that he can throw the ball. He is very accurate as a passer and very good overall. I'm a really big fan of him. I hope he does well in this offense with Greg Roman. So, Mr. Bakeslot, Mr. Bakeslot goes, if you draft Daniel Jones, would you handcuff Tommy Cutlets with him? Oh my God.
No, they brought in Drew Lock.
Yeah, they brought in Drew Lock. I'll take Drew Lock.
But I do appreciate the DeVito respect.
Yeah.
You're so over it, Mike. That's
I'm
hilarious.
so over it. It was like Jeremy Lin. I'm done with it. Come on.
Oh, you guys, I
You
don't,
know,
I
Palmer
don't
doesn't
have a
excite
tight
me,
end
though,
to start.
in that other previous discussion, he is in 3 seasons has 4 games over 100 yards, and there have been plenty of those games that he was the de facto wide receiver 1. So I don't know. I'm really not all that interested in Josh Palmer.
Okay.
Oh my God, am I seriously still not doing it?
Oh, I thought you
guys.
were gonna do it. Oh no.
Well, you only have one
I'm
more
gonna
chance
time
after this.
out. Okay, here we go. I did one.
Ah, there you go. That's
Boom.
not a bad one.
Well,
No,
only
it's not bad at
because
all.
it's like, are we sure it's why is it still clicking in my ear like I have 5 seconds left?
Oh, I don't know.
It's like stuck. I don't want that noise to be
That's
stuck in my
horrible.
ear.
Oh, that would
Like
suck.
are we positive it's Luke Musgrave or, is it possible that it's
Okay.
I don't know.
I
think it's
like Kraft.
certainly possible. Kraft did really
Um,
well after Musgrave got hurt.
I am not sure. Am I the only person that's clicking? Like it's literally still
Yeah,
clicking in
I
my ear.
have all
That's
mine
gonna be
off.
fun.
Yeah.
I should
I'm
turn
not
mine
here,
off.
maybe.
Except
Oh,
then
yeah.
I needed it last time. So
Well,
okay.
we only have one pick left. It's not
That's
like you're. Yeah, you're
Fine,
fine.
it can click. It can click.
I hate that sound too. I can't have it anywhere near me. I can't.
No, it threw me off earlier because it got one of our other drafters let it get down to the final 10 seconds, and I can hear obviously
Yeah.
when they get to that point. I'm like, oh shoot! I
Yeah.
thought I was the one that was about to time out.
Oh man. So how are you guys liking your team so far? I know that Lindsay, you were saying before that you basically have the 2018 best team of the league.
I know what I'm gonna do. Sorry.
But what about you, Tycoon? How you liking your team?
Well, full disclosure, as we were all kind of downplaying Carr, I only took Derek Carr strictly to get the stack with Olave. So I'll be honest there, even though I don't generally hunt for stacks, as you and I might talk about pretty regularly.
Oh, of course.
And otherwise, I'm mostly happy. I think the only pick I really regret was taking Chubb over Mostert. I somehow missed seeing Mostert there. But other than that, I'm relatively happy with my team. Yeah, I wish I had slightly better QB2 and wish I took Mostert over Chubb. But otherwise, I think it's a pretty strong and interesting team. I really like taking 2 tight ends early there.
Nice.
You know what I'm finding as I'm scanning for my last pick to do something interesting. And I'll probably just totally reach just to make a statement. But I'm finding there's lots of running backs I like in this range. And so, and not necessarily, again, I'm not sure if I've wrapped my brain around. I'm trying not to take all the running backs in this format. But I think there's a lot of really interesting running backs that are still on the board. Maybe just, in terms of thinking about other formats.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a good Vidal is one that I had in my queue. At this point, I'm like doing it, but that's fine because I was like, I'm just gonna queue. There's so many at this point. I was like, anyone I think is interesting, I'm just gonna queue them at this point because I don't really care because we only have one pick left.
But so looking at who's still on the board, we're here in the 15th round. Chuba Hubbard, should Brooks either not truly be healthy as they get into camp or struggle as he gets up to speed. Ton of value there. Dobbins, kind of a similar thing. If he can be fully healthy amongst that group, he's probably the most talented back in the room. So,
for sure.
Jalen Wright, we know he's a very possible injury away from getting into a prime role. Let's see. Then there's at least as far as I'm concerned, somebody like Marshawn Lloyd, Damian Pierce still could end up in notable roles.
Okay, I'm gonna do the one that I want to happen here, and I would never take him here in a real draft, but
oh, nice. No, it's a fair. Actually, that might not be a horrible. I don't even think that's a reach in a way. I mean,
you don't think so?
We were talking about it before. Marvin Mims is probably one of those sneaky diamond in the rough type guys that could do very well in this type of format.
I mean, his efficiency numbers last year were like. I mean, they weren't H-Anish. Nobody was H-Anish. But he when you go look at efficiency numbers, he popped. Like, it wasn't like, oh, he's in this mix. He's like, he pops. And you're like, oh, so this is great. I'm going to stash him on my bench because they're going to see this. And they're going to put him on the field. And then they didn't put him on the field. So the one thing that we are looking for, I think, in training camp, for Marvin Mims, I will be looking for notes on his pass protection, whether or not he's improved dramatically, because that's what kept him off the field. So if he can pass protect better, if he has fixed that, then Marvin Mims to the moon, relatively. Marvin moves to the clouds, But if he hasn't. So those are there are buzzwords I'm looking for Marvin Mims before I draft him.
Okay.
But yeah, but I had also just starred just for conversation's sakes, Dontavian Wicks,
Okay.
because who
Like
knows?
him a
They're
lot.
going to have different wide receiver ones every single week. You might not know which one to play
Yes.
on a given week. Malachi Corley is like a Debo-ish type guy that the Jets
Okay.
brought in. If they utilize him in a bunch of different ways and that type of versatility is employed, he could be interesting if the Jets offense doesn't suck. Jamario Douglas, I think, could be wide receiver 1 in New England, and New England isn't going to be the New England of old. We're looking at a new coaching staff there, so that actually might be good. Antonio Gibson, Marshawn Lloyd, I think, in a later round. I really like him. Jaleel McLaughlin. And then Bucky Irving is a guy that I've got my eye on in Tampa Bay because Rachaad White was very inefficient in terms of his rushing metrics.
Interesting. Okay. I went with Rachaad White, hoping for that to work out in a lot of ways. I thought he could be a really good efficient runner. I might have to relook into that particular.
I think Rachaad, I'm not saying that they're taking him off the field. It's just that when you see somebody who's hugely inefficient, he got his fantasy production was all in the passing game. It was all PPR format propping him up. And then he had rushing numbers, but much like, not similarly, but like Alexander Madison. No, not Alexander Madison. Why am I blanking? Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook, before the Vikings cut him, his efficiency numbers were awful. And everyone was like, but he's a 1,000-yard rusher. And you're like, yeah, but he's a 1,000-yard rusher because they give him all of the rush attempts because they built their roster around Dalvin Cook, right? So it makes sense to maybe not build your roster around Dalvin Cook. And so you could project that maybe his rush attempts are going to go down or they might move on or something like that. Like that was something that we could see coming with the efficiency numbers. Rachaad White is somebody that's on my radar just in that regard because you have to be able to run the ball to, that's got to be a priority. And if his efficiency numbers in that metric are not good, then they might think about bringing somebody onto the field who can get those numbers up.
Yeah, I mean, I just liked his particular numbers overall last year in PPR. I mean, I don't even see a stat here that shows him lower than 12.
Yep.
So for me, I want a consistent guy that is consistently running that ball and touching it. And at this point, he's going to have a ton of attempts, which is the other part of this where it's 0.25, 0.25.
What's happening to my hair? By the way, I just looked at myself in the monitor for the first time because I've been looking at the draft board and I look like it is the end of a ragged Friday right now. Like, what's happening? And it has been a day. And the clicking is still happening in my ear.
Oh, geez.
Mine actually just started doing that too. I had to close that tab. So I'm relying now on the screen sharing. Yes. Yeah, we can get out of there now. Yeah, that was driving me nuts. I don't know how you did that for that
Good
long.
note.
Oh, yeah. No, I wouldn't. So we got Mr. Baskelot. He goes, what do you guys think of Tank Bigsby? He is behind Dearness Johnson forever, or will he be ETN's backup? That's a great question. I mean, I keep hearing that he kind of had a rough year last year, and that's why he was behind Dearness. And they're hoping to get him back up to speed. But what do you think, Linz?
I think running back's tricky because if he had a little bit of a shot and they didn't get him on the field, that might be the shot. Like they're seeing him at practice. They know what he brings to the table. When you are, I don't know. I think he's not somebody I want in fantasy. Like in real football, if Etienne goes down, then I think they still thanks. That's how I feel. I feel beautiful right now. If Etienne goes down, then it's every man for himself. Who knows? I don't know how to back up Etienne for fantasy purposes, I guess is the short answer here. I'm not 100% sure. But again, I think that's one of the fun things with training camp is, and that's where I was on to Puka, and that's where you can pick up so many things because what coaches offer, and it's not always true, but and sometimes who the reporters say or that person's flashing, that doesn't necessarily matter, but who the coaches go out of their way to talk about, that's usually signal. And then also where they find themselves, like in what groupings they're in. Like Puka last year, very early on, was running with the ones. And there was no reason they didn't draft him to do that. It wasn't like, oh, he's their first round draft pick, so they're giving him a chance. They have to, like, he has to get there. That he was like a nobody, and they moved him immediately into groupings with the ones. You're like, that is signal. Like we have to consider that. That means that the things that we're not seeing at practice are incredible. That he would go from being a 5th round pick to running with Cooper Kupp, right? Like that. There's signal there. So I think that's one of those things that we'll have to kind of read between the lines once those training camp reports, once they're actually on the field. You're looking for those kinds of things from them.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And
not the splash plays on social media. Those
Oh
always
no.
trick us.
Oh no, I never look at those. I care more about the report than I do the play. It's great to see, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to me. Like for me, for my Giants, I'm looking for that running back room with Devin Singletary and Tyron Tracy, and seeing who's doing that and who's been getting all the touches recently. It's been Tracy. So, it's making me sort of try to figure out what they're trying to do there. Eric Gray, we'll see.
I wouldn't overreact to that personally, I wouldn't at this very moment, because
oh no, not yet.
Well, no. But I mean, I'm just saying he's the new guy, so it makes sense that he would be getting the touches. Devin Singletary is a veteran. We know who he is. They know who he is. They don't know who he is in this offense because he's like the new guy there, but they're familiar with Devin Singletary and what he brings to the table, and they need to see what Tracy is and get him as many reps as possible. So at this stage of the season, I don't know that I read too much into that, because I can come up with a bunch of reasons why they would want to see him on the field now. If it's training camp and he's in the mix with the ones, now we're having a different conversation, because you do need to get your starter ready for the season at that point.
For sure. I mean, the other guy for the Giants that I love is Wan'Dale Robinson. I can't wait for him to get out on the field.
I loved him last year. So I'm a little bit like, I'm just going to sit back here on Wan'Dale.
No, I get it.
I don't know what I think about the Giants.
Right.
Yeah, it's hard to get too enthusiastic about that offense.
Yeah.
Currently.
Yeah, for sure.
Even Neighbors has the you're like, well, he could be very good and he could absolutely elevate the offense, but then there's, Daniel Jones. And will he be will these be catchable targets? Will he? I don't know.
I saw, and I talked about this last week with Jim, but I saw a podcast where Julian Edelman was talking with LaShawn McCoy, and Edelman said that he talked to a former player of Josh Allen that was playing in New York, and guy said that that Daniel Jones was more accurate than Josh Allen, and I sat there and I'm like, I hope this is.
If he played with Allen in those first 2 seasons,
right?
Then yeah, I mean that would probably be really true.
Yeah, I think my assumption it's Cole Beasley. Could be wrong. He didn't say who, so that's fine. But
that was who my mind went to for the record.
It went Cole.
Well. There's not that much crossover, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Who has played with both of them?
Well, I mean, and there were a couple linemen that moved over too. So that's where maybe they see it in practice. Who knows?
They're great judges of accuracy.
No, they don't know. They don't care. They just care about keeping them upright. But I get it. So we got Coach Bruce going. So what's your thoughts on Dak Prescott's contract?
Pay him. Pay him
what
now.
they just played
yesterday.
Trevor? Yeah.
What, do you this makes me fired up, because nice. It's going in this direction. It's going to get more expensive. Everyone who gets paid, Trevor Lawrence getting paid, Dak's getting more than Trevor Lawrence. Every single person you let get paid before you pay Dak Prescott makes Dak Prescott more expensive. Are you going to let him go in free agency? Okay. Good luck. Go find a quarterback. How many teams in the league would back than their quarterback? He will find, I mean, of course, there's so many, Kansas City, put your hand down. You know what I mean? There's a handful, there's so many.
Back to the Giants.
But I understand the whole, he hasn't gotten it done in the playoffs and all that kind of stuff, but that is an entitled position. because it's not Dak. Dak isn't coming out and for no reason just shitting the bed in the playoffs. Like that's not, I mean, he might here and there, right? Everybody has off days, but Dak is not your issue. He's just not your issue. Dak was, no, pay him.
Yeah.
Pay him.
I get it. I mean, honestly, everyone was jumping on, I'm sorry, I keep bringing up the Giants, but at this point, when you look at I think it was Craig Carton put up the two stats of Trevor Lawrence and Daniel Jones, and they are exactly the same. And you look at it, and you're like, oh, so you're paying Daniel Jones this much? Smart move. Like, why are you going to pay? You know, for someone like Dak, I definitely think they should. I mean, why not? Otherwise, he's going to be the only option. There's really no one else in free agency for the quarterback position. He's got a little bit of leverage. So hopefully they get that done.
I suppose you could make an argument that they could somehow make some moves to build up some draft capital so that they could trade up to get a quarterback next year. But like this was the year.
Who wants a quarterback next year?
Well, that's kind of this was the year with the quarterback depth.
Yeah.
So if you think that you're going to do that, then you have to be proactive and go make that move now. Go get your young quarterback and let somebody else play Dak and hit the reset button. But also, are we really hitting any kind of reset button? Jerry Jones is how old? He's in his 80s. You want to win a championship. The problem here is that Dak hasn't won a championship. So now you want to win a championship in like effectively a rebuild. You want to bring in a brand new quarterback who's a rookie and just roll the dice that's going to be competitive and that's going to hit. Just pay him. Pay him. This is the cost of doing business. He is a quarterback. He is an above average quarterback. That's how it works. Get it done.
Would you rather have Dak or Parsons long term?
I mean, I think you have to choose the quarterback. I just think it's harder to find the quarterback. And Parsons is a stud. In a perfect world, I would want all three of them, right? You want Parsons, you want CD, you want Dak. But in terms of priorities, this is a quarterback league. And if you don't have a quarterback, you're not going anywhere, period. It doesn't matter what else you have. You have to have a good enough quarterback.
Oh, I agree.
You don't have to have the best quarterback in the NFL, but you have to have a good enough quarterback.
Right.
And so, you can, I think it's, do we all agree it's probably easier to find a pass rusher or somebody who's like Micah Parsons. And I don't mean to downgrade his importance or how special he is. It's just, I feel like every year you have different guys that come out that are but quarterbacks, I mean, we're talking about Trevor Lawrence was the number 1 overall pick. Yeah. And we're like, I don't know. Do you have to pay him? I mean, I agree. I think they did because I think that it's just, you have a good enough quarterback. And are you going to go back to square one? Like, I don't know that Trevor Lawrence is the problem. There are other problems I could isolate there. Let's fix those other problems and then figure out if Trevor Lawrence is still the problem, right? Like, let's insert some motion into the offense. Let's get creative. But
and I mean, you ended up building around him anyway. You went out and got Brian Thomas. You ended up keeping a couple of key pieces. You brought in Gabe Davis. You have a lot of pieces around him. They at least are doing something about it. Giants too with Daniel Jones. I actually think with the Dallas the Dallas defense is actually going to take a step back this year in general, not just because I'm a Giants fan, but because losing Dan Quinn was probably the worst thing that could have happened to that defense. And I think that's going to be a huge hit for them, even if they have who they have.
Yeah,
so
can we talk from a fantasy standpoint, though? We're all in on CD. We think CD is going to do.
CD, I'm all in. Yeah.
Well, but I'm just saying the discrepancy between CD and Dak. And I understand that there, to a degree, there's a quarterback. They're in fantasy kind of a dime a dozen. Like, there isn't that much difference. Like, you can wait and get Jordan Love or somebody like that, and he could potentially give you a couple points less per game than Josh Allen, who you have to use a much higher draft pick on. You miss out on people in a different range. CD, if CD is going to do what we think he's going to do, to the point where we're thinking maybe in regular redrafts to take him second overall, then Dak's going to have a pretty good season. Right? Like, I mean, is he he was a good fantasy quarterback last year. And so you could make the argument that he is a value pick for you in fantasy drafts. based on that, because we're predicting they're going to throw the ball a shit ton to
Oh, for
CD
sure.
specifically. And
I like him the best at the top tier of the wide receiver. He's probably the best value and the best option at that point. You know, there's a lot of question. I mean, I wouldn't say question marks with JJ and with Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill and things like that. But I like
What's the
CeeDee
question
Lamb.
with Tyreek?
I've seen a pattern this last year. He had a great season, very well. But you're starting to see him kind of slow down a smidge, and his off the field stuff is slowly. I know,
Yeah.
I get it, but it's part of who he is, and it makes it where it becomes a little bit of a problem. It makes him a little bit of a risk. Not to say that he's not good. I have him in my dynasty leagues. Believe me, I'm kind of hoping he has a great year.
I feel like there's a possibility if they're both on the board, I would take Tyreek over CD because I'm a big in the same ballpark. I want to know what I'm looking at. I want to kind of understand what my floor and my ceiling are outside of injuries. And for me, Tyreek is, I know exactly who he is as a player. And I know who they are as an offense. I know what they want to do with him. And I know what they've consistently been able to do with him. And so I expect that to continue. We've seen him in an offense with another top wide receiver in Waddle. Still gets it done. Like, check that box. All of the question marks that we've had about him over the last few years, he has answered and been great. And he's still the same Tyreek. So the thing about CD is, for me, who's in that backfield? Does the run game suck? Right? Does that make it easier? Who is the second option in the passing game? Does all of this make it easier to focus in on CD defensively and potentially take him out? I do think that he's going to have mass targets, and I mean we're splitting hairs here at the very top of the wide receiver chart, but I'm just thinking in terms of those two, I might actually put Tyreek ahead of CD.
Okay,
but I don't know.
I don't hate that. I mean, it coverage wise, it definitely works out better for Tyreek overall because you can't defend both, but you can definitely put double coverage on Lamb because Cooks, as much as he's who he is, and I like Cooks overall. I mean, he's a great player, and I admire him through his years, but unfortunately, he isn't that like Waddle. Like he's not that guy. So I can understand.
And a year on the body too for him. He's starting to creep up there age wise. So
yeah.
And you never know quite when that cliff's going to hit with receivers. It feels like anytime a receiver loses that step, it's a massive and quick one.
Yeah. Unless you're Adam Thielen and you're in a Panthers offense for, 6 weeks or something that has no one else to throw the ball to.
Oh, that was such a beautiful, that was such a beautiful, 6-7 weeks of him just doing so good. And then just falling off the face of the earth. I
that
don't
part was
know
a bummer.
how that happened. Yeah. I was very upset. I had him everywhere.
Yeah.
So
I did want to agree with your point though, too. If in general, people are consensus, at least probably top 3 for redraft for CD, right? As far as receivers go. So it's nearly impossible to imagine that happens without Dak being a top 6 QB and likely better.
Right.
Because the number of touchdowns that you need to reach in order to hit that tier is so high. And that's really what drives quarterback scoring too. I mean, it's really touchdowns.
Yep.
For sure. So I wanted to bring up something real quick because I forgot to do this while we were all running around and doing our mock. But if you are not in Scott Fish and want a chance at winning a golden ticket, leave a comment with the hashtag SFB14 and you will have an opportunity. Let me get that out there. There you go. In the chat, and make sure to subscribe to not only us, but our friends at the Extra Point and Fantasy Tavern. So make sure you guys are doing that. Rasta is going to be running a race on next Friday's show. So earn those extra entries by tuning in to all of them. Love Get Right Fantasy Network live shows, including the Extra Point and on Thursday, and any videos that come out from the tavern. So make sure you guys are checking them out and make sure you guys are using that hashtag. You can use it in the live chat as well as in the comments after the fact. So please make sure you guys are doing that.
Yeah, my favorite thing that I learned this week is that the winner of Scott Fishbowl last year was a first-time Scott Fishbowl participant who got his invite by winning a race
Yep.
similar to that
That's the
he
best.
was able to get in because he bought a t-shirt. Like, that's incredible. So, yeah.
Oh yeah.
You guys
Definitely.
could be like that, when the winning lottery ticket is bought at, like, they're like, hey, this is the
Yeah.
store that sold
Yeah.
the winning lottery
We're the
ticket. You guys
7-Eleven,
could be
yeah.
that show.
If
Our
that
race.
happens, that is going to be a permanent fixture somewhere on this graphic. 100%.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I actually got in my first time ever getting in was through a race. And that's how
Really?
I actually got in through a race. I won a shirt. So make sure you guys are checking out Scott Fish's the SBF merch. They just came out with hoodies, hats. They now have upgraded. They're going to be coming out with other stuff down the line, as they always do. But make sure you guys are donating as well to fantasycares.org and making sure you guys are being involved in that aspect of it. I actually, like I said, I won with the race, and then I also won a shirt from the race, and then I ended up winning to get into New York City Live, and
Oh, cool.
I ended up winning the silent auction there for a spot this year. So I'm going back to
You're
New
a
York City.
winner.
Yeah.
Now, how did your actual Scott Fishbowl team do? You're a winner of all the contests.
I won all the contests, but not this. My first year doing it, I did okay. I had a better team the first year I did it. I think it was in the Tokyo division, and I did pretty well. But after that, I've done okay. I had a couple guys fall out of grace, like T. Higgins, and Stevenson didn't really do as what I wanted, and a few other guys fell off, but I won't get into every single guy that I drafted. So we got Who's the Mike, and he goes, Lindsay, are you worried about Troy Franklin overtaking Marvin Mims if Bo Nix takes over midseason?
I mean, yeah, I'm worried about all of it. All of those. I'm not in any way set on Marvin Mims in Denver, because as much as Sean Payton keeps talking about him, and I talked about signal, there's so much signal coming out of Denver about, he has said every step of the, we've got to find a way to get Marvin Mims on the field more. Like, he kept saying that all throughout the season, and then he kept not putting him on the field. So maybe that was something in retrospect, that he was actually sending a message to Marvin Mims, like, you have to get better. Like, I want you on the field, but I can't put you on the field because you do this other thing that you don't think is as much of a priority, but can't get you on the field. So, yeah, it's entirely possible that he gets supplanted by anybody, but I feel like the room is kind of wide open. Like, I know Cortland Sutton's been around. Cortland's not a guy who has ever, to me, been like, he's never blown my mind. Right. So I think that's on the table. Like, he, at this moment, you would go, that's the wide receiver one in Denver. But, like, is he a wide receiver one that you could find a better wide receiver one for? Yes. Yeah. So Tim Patrick, I know. I wanted that to happen last year.
I did too.
Yeah, but so the whole room. However, I'm not sure that I do make that much of the whole connection in college transferring over there. Sometimes maybe, I suppose you could say that, but the coaches don't care about that. And they are going to put the best talent in the best positions. And so if they don't think that he's the most talented one to put in that position, it's not going to be like, well, but they have chemistry. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you'll develop chemistry with the best talent. This is the NFL.
Oh, true. I mean, what I think it was 2 years ago with the Chase draft, and how many teams just linked up their wide receiver that they had at one point. I mean, it's hard to think that they're not looking at that aspect now, that they're trying to get, their young, talented guy with a really productive wide receiver that they did well with in college, just so that they have familiarity with them. And
is Chase an outlier in that department, though? Right? Like, that you can get Joe.
I was going to give him an
often are
outlier.
you getting that elite prospect tier for both positions? I mean,
Exactly.
that's not
Right. Yeah, exactly. Chase is that guy that at the very top of the draft, you're like, this is the wide receiver we want. Troy Franklin is a wide receiver
True. Yeah.
that
Fair enough.
I mean, not like he's not a jag, but I mean, just like in that next tier of wide receivers, he was kind of clustered. He wasn't like that guy that you got to go get at the top.
True.
Which again, Marvin Mims isn't either. Like I'm not suggesting that, but I'm just saying I'm not necessarily. Yes, to the question that was asked. Yes, Troy Franklin. That is very possible that could happen. I don't know.
Fair point. No, I get it, and you're right. And he is just some receiver. He's not at that elite status. It's not like Neighbors went with the Cincinnati Bengals or something like that. Like it makes sense. Anyway, so we
and
are
to that
all.
point too. Even with
go ahead.
I think you could say that about every position in Denver. Frankly, I think at the running back position, the wide receiver position, even at the quarterback position, anything is possible.
I got very sad seeing the McLaughlin one, the McLaughlin news.
Yeah,
I got very upset because I really like Javonte Williams. So
I'm a Jaleel. I'm a Jaleel truther. But again, I think partially that's like the Broncos are interesting because I'm somebody who's just always looking at the advanced metrics to see if there's someone we're missing on that like we should get in ahead of. And I know a lot of people in this community are doing the exact same thing, but I feel like Jaleel is one of those guys that kind of pops as like, if you're just pulling up a bunch of different efficiency metrics, those advanced stats, you're like, he's pretty high, should we maybe get him on the field a little bit more? And then, Mims was a guy that did that too. There are a handful of guys there, but also part of the reason that you would read into that more in Denver than in some other places is because there just doesn't seem to be like anyone who's really stepping up and being like, this is my job. You're not allowed. There's no door that's cracked open. All of the doors are cracked open at every position. Ooh, this could be a rough year. I hope it's not. I like Sean Payton. I would like Sean Payton to have some success there.
Oh, for sure. I didn't see them doing a lot with the line. They needed to work a lot on that line. That was their probably biggest problem. Well, other than Russ, but so we got trends there. He goes, besides Marvin Harrison Jr., what rookies are you guys keeping an eye on with the highest chance of being a big impact player this season? I have mine.
Oh, you do? Who's yours?
Well, I'm not going to go with Neighbors. That would be low-hanging fruit. I'm going to be going with Keaton Coleman. I think he has a really good opportunity with Josh Allen, and he is getting
Who
into
else is standing in his way?
Exactly.
Curtis
Chase,
Samuel.
Yeah, Chase Claypool.
Right?
Yeah. I just see him being in the best possible scenario for him to do really well in that particular offense. I like his style in general and the way he plays. He was I like just overall his metrics, and I think he can do really well in that offense.
Keon was an interesting, and obviously I'm not saying anything that everybody didn't know with the draft, like was very polarizing in terms of the contested catches. And so I'm a little bit scared that he walks into a room where I think he has to be the dude. Because I don't think that there's a dude there. And maybe they don't need a dude because Josh Allen's the dude. And so maybe he just distributes the ball and he gets the ball exactly where it's supposed to be. I don't know if that's his thing. But anyway, but Keon, I'm a little bit scared at like the number of contested catches that there were. Like, can you not create separation? Because you're going to have to do that in the NFL. That has to happen. And if you're the number one and they're going to send their number one corner to you, then what is that going to look like? So I do have some question marks there, but you could very well be right because the opportunity is 100% there for him. Like that room just opened wide up.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that I feel like there's a chance that there's a running back that's an impact player that's a random, like it's running back is a position now, I think, where guys can come out of nowhere. And if they get the opportunity, Achane he didn't come out of nowhere exactly, right? But he
True.
wasn't like a first round guy.
No.
And if you are given an opportunity, I mean, no one expected him to be as freaking good as he was. Like if he'd stayed healthy, are we talking about him being the running back that we walked away from last year? Like, are we having conversations about him and Bijan? Like, I mean, he blew him away in terms of fantasy production and stats and efficiency metrics and stuff like that. So I think that there's a chance that there's somebody like that just goes to the right situation. And I think running back is also one of those positions I talked about, environment mattering for quarterback. I think now we're at a point where that's the case for running back. There's so few running backs that come out that are just like, that's your bell cow. So it's all about whether or not you get drafted by the right offense and they use you in the way that plays to your strengths and you have an opportunity to really flash. And I think, you might not flash for like 10 years. It might not be that anymore, but we might see a kind of a random name. And, I highlighted at the end of the draft some of the names that I have on my radar in that department.
So Johnny Green
throw one in there too. Yeah, as he kind of rephrased it better yet, who's more likely to not match up with their ADP, or as I would read it, exceed their ADP. And I think Jaden Daniels, I know he's probably thinking more skill position player than quarterback, but I think Jaden Daniels will be the top 10, possibly top 8 or higher fantasy quarterback his rookie season. I'm incredibly high on him in what should be a very new and improved Washington offense. I'm not the biggest Cliff Kingsbury fan, but I'm choosing to have a little bit of faith that with him being able to focus solely on his coordinator duties and not have to run the show, at least for a year, get back into a nice groove. I mean, Kyler Murray's been a wonderful fantasy quarterback for some time, largely under Cliff. So I have similar hope here for Jaden.
I'm curious about just what the offense looks like. Like, does he go back to more of a spread type offense with the wide receivers that he has in Washington? And that would feel like it kind of makes sense to spread them out with Jaden Daniels. You know what I mean? Like, so that you have some lanes for his, I just think it'll be interesting to see what they do. And it could be so different.
And they have the 2 tight end set that they could use with Zach Ertz and Ben Sennett. They also have a good run game.
I mean, they've been playing
catching, and this is
back in this. Well, that's the thing. So in mini camp in this offseason, they've been running a lot of 2-back sets and like experimenting with that. So is that just a spring thing where they're Quinn has called it like a passing, I forget the phrase, but like a passing season or something like that. That's what he sees mini camps as. So if it is, then is that why you're putting both of them on the field and getting Eckler involved more as a passer, but not, or is that something that you actually take into training camp? Are you actually going to run some, like put them both on the field at the same time? I just think the whole thing is so fascinating. I don't know exactly what they're going to look like and then how Jaden Daniels will adapt to reading defenses. All of that pre-snap read stuff, I think will affect whether or not he stands in the pocket or whether he tucks and runs. And he's not a guy, I just want to raise my hand and say, I know he's not that guy who just is like looking to run all the time. Like he was pretty disciplined about staying in the pocket and going through his reads. But in the NFL in this transition period, will he be that? Because that's a tough position. That's a tough transition in terms of knowing what you're seeing. Because the NFL defenses are so good at disguising what they're about to throw at you. And so if he's confused in the first half of the season, then does that lead to him saying, F it, I'm going to run, as opposed to standing back here and not knowing where people are, what the defense is going to look like. So how good is he in that department and how quickly does he make that transition to the NFL? I think that will affect his fantasy production to a degree because I think you could see a lot less running. He's not a guy who's just like running all the time,
For sure. So, I'm excited to see what that offense has to do. And I mean, as overall, I mean, it's one of those offenses that we're just kind of hoping and praying it has something, that can really be something fun for the NFC East.
I wish he carried it, like have a quarterback.
Oh my God.
He needs someone who can throw him a fade ball.
I wanted him to leave to go to somewhere better, but I hope that I hope this is his opportunity. Like, I hope this is where everything works out for him. He's such a solid receiver.
And he seems like a good dude. I've never met him, but like he checks all of the boxes. He's that guy that everyone wants to root for.
Oh, for sure.
I think rather than see him go somewhere else, I want this to work for him. I want him to stay with the team, and I want it to just go, nope, this is what I could have been all along, and I'm glad that it happened here. I think honestly, that's the ideal story.
That was my thought problem. The way I was just thinking about it was before they got Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
Now, since they've gotten him, oh my God, I can't wait.
With a new ownership group that we feel okay rooting
God.
for. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Snyder out definitely helps.
I think that's a huge change. But Lindsay, I don't want to hold you up too much. We've already kind of gone past the time I thought I would hold you here.
Are my children asleep on the couch with their iPads on their face? Because we got home from my son's baseball game, and I was like, I gotta go. And so I don't even know where they are. This is solid parenting.
But
I mean,
Lindsay,
it harkens me back to a better day. You know, I'm not sure when I was a kid, my parents knew where I was most of or at least a lot of the time.
They're inside.
I mean,
like they're not running around in my neighborhood. I do know that. So
yeah, there you go.
That's a win.
They're safe somewhere.
Yeah, they're totally safe. So, Lindsay, thank you so much for being here. As Rasta said, this has been such a great treat. So thank you. Great stuff. Feels like we can keep talking forever. Oh, believe me, I want to. This is such great, insight and a great conversation. So sad to have it end, but it's okay. I'm just really happy that we had you here. I'm going to give you a few seconds to plug a few of the things that you guys are working on over there. And
yeah. So the Bleav Fantasy Football Show with me and Michael Fabiano. Right now we are I got like a single. This is like the old NFL network, like MJD turn to your single and now do your spiel. So yeah, we have the Bleav Fantasy Football Show right now, because this is the depth of the off season. We're doing 2 shows a week, Tuesday and Thursday. It'll be in your inbox at some point those days if you subscribe. And then once we kind of training camps ramp up, and that means fantasy season's underway, and you start thinking about who you want to draft for your fantasy team, then we will start offering shows more frequently. And so look for us then. Look for us now, but then also.
Oh, of course. I will be sure to subscribe. So thank you so much for being with here. Tycoon, really love having you here as well, my friend. Always a pleasure. I just want to say thank you to everybody that was in the mock. Thank you for joining. Thank you for mocking. This is the one thing I love, is that we can do these mocks without any auto drafts. It's just, it makes, that's why this is why we started doing this in the first place. We were sick and tired of those sleeper auto drafts. So I'm just so happy that we found a group of guys that
like us make it better. That's for sure.
For sure. So thank you so much, Lindsay, again. And everyone out there, thank you so much for joining and watching. We will see you next time. We will be back Monday night, and then, of course, next Friday as well. So make sure you guys are tuning in and keeping up with everything that we are doing. Make sure you guys are using the hashtag SFB14 to get your chance for a golden ticket into Scott Fish. So please do that. Also donate, like I said, all this merch out there. It's really great.
Donate, please. Yes. That's the entire purpose of this tournament. Please donate. Please buy your merch. FantasyCares.org. Sorry, got to make sure we say where to donate.
And for me to kick the 11 people in my league's ass.
Yeah. And you got
the
Fab right next to you, too.
The 2 purposes. Yeah, fucker. Following me around.
Hey, yeah, you're not going to kick my ass this year like last year in the Roscoe's division. So I'm actually, glad and relieved to realize that you're not in my... I snuck into the playoffs, but no, your team was great last year.
Thank you. Yeah, we didn't go anywhere with it. But anyway, thank you for having me.
Thank you again. Seriously, Lindsay, this was amazing. Really, really appreciate you taking the time, especially, like you mentioned, a very busy Friday, coming straight from your son's baseball game. And letting them do... Who knows? Well,
I don't know.
Come talk to us. So thank you.
I do know. They're on their iPads. That's
there you go.
Anyway, but thank you guys very much. Appreciate you.
Thanks so much. So for everybody, for Rasta, for Frank, for Dustin, thanks to everybody, and also our affiliates as well with Phil and Kendall over at the Extra Point and Fantasy Tavern. Hope to see you guys soon. Make sure you guys are liking and subscribing to them as well as us. We'll see you soon. Take care, everybody.
Wanted to white fantasy is the play. Marking nothing but